My early 20s was some of the worst years of my life. At the time, I was working a job with no future, had little to no social skills, and my time was very much wasted every day. This added up to a heap of depression, followed by very dark thoughts. Still, I kept myself going from the droplets of gratification that came from gaming, watching movies, and mindlessly browsing the internet, which kept me going for a while. But I never felt complete whenever there was a quiet time in between. This is when I finally admitted to myself, I need help. At first, I didn't know where to start. I had an irrational disliking to finding some public help group. I don't know why. I think at the time, I still had that special snowflake vibe that I felt my problems were more unique and too different for a cookie-cutter help group to solve. With this in mind, I took to the internet and blazed through until I started hitting the back pages of the search engine, looking for a hidden gem. My eyes were glazed over, skimming all the titles, until one shook me from my catatonic state. Do you feel like everything is hopeless? Do you feel like the drones around you can't help you? Do you need a way out that's different? Click here to find out more. In my mind, I immediately answered yes to all three. Those questions perfectly hit the nail on the head describing how I felt. Before long, I was given a number to call to arrange a home visit. In the call, I told them of all my problems and how I felt, adding the caveat that I felt too different for any ordinary service to help. They seemed to be interested in my case and gave me a date for a visit a week on Friday. The time couldn't come any faster. I found myself practically counting the time away for that home visit. This was it, I thought to myself. This was what was going to be the beginning to the rest of my life. Friday rolled around, and I made sure I was doing nothing. I didn't start any games. I cleared up a spot in my otherwise messy house for us to talk. I even laid out some snacks. When the guy showed up, he wasn't what I was expecting at all. He was a very serious-looking man in an all-black suit and tie, carrying a very formal briefcase. He looked like he should be bodyguarding someone of importance, not messing around with a slob like me. I offered him food and drinks numerous times throughout the appointment. However, he denied each time. He was just here for business, and he was serious. The speech he gave me was astounding. He rattled on about how I was the driving force for everything that's happened in my life, that all the bad that's happened to me was either directly or indirectly due to decisions I've made throughout my life, that all my decisions has led to this point, and how my future decisions will either pull me out or keep me going on this downward path. I was taken aback by how mind-blowing this all was to hear. And it was all true. I often felt like a mess, yet I kept my house messy, which reinforced that ideal. I felt horrible in wasting time, yet I purposely chose to waste the free time I had. I was always tired, yet I chose to stay up all night and barely get any sleep before work. I really was the primary reason for everything wrong in my life. This was all perfect and everything I needed. Until the last point. He started to go on about one last decision I had to make. This is when he pulled out his briefcase, something which he hadn't drawn attention to at any point prior. He opened it on my just about cleared coffee table and turned it around. In the case were 2 pills, each on a soft bed. They almost glowed in the light with their glossy, opaque coat. I stared at them. One was the most intense, warm red I'd ever seen in person before. The other was a cool, chilling blue. I stared at them in disbelief, furrowing my brow in anticipation of what this was all about. I had already half figured it out in my head. I mean, who hasn't seen The Matrix? I was more just curious about the direction he was going to take this. Your life is a series of decisions which has led you to this one key moment. Will you take the blue pill, see your life carry on as it is? Or will you take the red pill and grasp the opportunity to end that cycle? He said all this with a straight face, so I reciprocated by taking it seriously. I put on a concentrating look while I eyed each option. My mind came to the thought of the red pill. I mean, it sounds like the correct decision, right? This whole session was about making decisions to forward my life and to stop choosing to be stagnant. But then, reality kicked in. If there's something I've learned from failed diets and life-changing schemes, it's that there is no fast fix in life. If you want to lose weight, you have to work hard with diet and exercise. If you want to get rich, you can't just magic opportunities. You have to be proactive. And I figured that this was the moral of the session. I'll take the blue pill, I retorted. This was the first time I saw him react, and his serious gaze was briefly dropped when he took in what I said. Are you sure? I've sat here telling you to take control of your life. You have to make proactive decisions, he said, trying to sound persuasive. However, no matter how persuasive he was, I had it all figured out in my head. No, I'll take the blue pill. I know I have to make good decisions from now on, which I will do, but I also know that there are no magic fixes in life. Right now, I'm making the first big decision of my new life. I'm choosing to take the hard way so I can grow. At first, he scowled a bit, but then he smirked and left me one last remark. Okay, you have made your decision. He handed me the blue pill as he carried on. However, I will leave you the red pill. If you ever feel like you need an escape, this is always an option. And with that, he left. I took the blue pill and swallowed it with the dregs of coffee I had left, smiled, and had a new outlook in life. From here, everything went uphill. I started by identifying issues in my life. I had all the common things you can think of. I was terrible in social situations, especially around women. I put in about 40% effort at work, at most. I lived a messy life and ate terribly. I would stay up all night and be slowed down for the entire day after as consequence. At first, I went overboard. I forced myself into a healthy diet to my body's protests, burned myself out on my work, leaving me with a new kind of exhaustion. I made a fool of myself in front of others. This sent me spiraling back to square one, and in a way, made me feel worse than before. A new rock bottom. However, no matter how many times I hit this point, I would look at the red pill. This would make me call back the meeting and bring back the emotional overflow which inspired this new journey of mine. I would remember my convictions, get up, and try again. After researching some helpful tips online, I found an interesting Japanese philosophy called Kaizen. It's the principle of changing so little in your life that you barely notice it. This helped a lot, as what always sent me back was my psyche getting too shocked from sudden changes in status quo and reverting back to my toxic default. I started very small. I swapped out a few unhealthy eating habits for a few good ones. I did the dishes whenever I used them, and I started simply taking notes at work. Once all this became second nature, I added to it. I started saying hello and have a nice day to cashiers whenever I shopped. I cleaned a different room every week, rather than trying to tackle the whole house. I started seeking small tasks to do at work. And you know what? People took notice. Co-workers suddenly had an interest in me. I was striking up conversation with various staff at shops, and I was starting to be praised for my efforts at work. All this led to an amazing rush of dopamine each time, and my positivity ramped up. I was now making friends. I was now being approached for conversation rather than being forced to for work. I was even getting a bit of attention from curious ladies. The red pill, once a symbol of my lowest low, was now a symbol of how far I'd came. I kept it in a little clear box on my bedside cabinet and told anyone who was interested of its story. This is not to say I never almost caved in. Failed dates, poor performance at work, mess piling up in my home. All of these would start to pull me back to my low. And each time, I'd eye the red pill, curiosity growing of what it did, temptation clawing at me for its promise of an easy fix. However, I'd use these feelings to remind myself of its message, the message of the thankless stranger who blessed me with this motivation all those years ago. That last thought hit me one day. I never thanked him. This was something I wanted to amend, now that I was flying through life. First, I tried looking up the site. However, the link was dead. A common thing for most old independent websites due to the rise and presence of a more central social media-centric nature of the internet. I dug out my old phone and tried calling the number I was given all those years ago. However, the number was seemingly not in use anymore. I had all but given up. The last thing to try was to start searching Google to find if it rebranded itself elsewhere, or see if I could find traces of it on the back pages somewhere. The latter seemingly an ironic way to find it, if that worked. But this would never be the case. As I searched, the first few links were to major headlines on news sites. My heart sank as I clicked one of them. The article went into detail about the group that ran the service, how they were fanatics dedicated to mass murder, and how they had persuaded many people in similar situations as me to commit suicide. At first, I thought it might have been a different group under the same name, an easy alibi as things like that have happened before. I made every excuse under the sun to deny their involvement, until I saw how they did it. First, they would find people who were in a low point of their life. Then, they would offer them a choice. A blue pill, which was simply a placebo, or a red pill, which was filled with a lethal dose of cyanide, which, if ingested, would result in a person's death within minutes. My stomach sank reading this. It went on to say there were no survivors, that everyone involved were either arrested or found dead on scene, having taken one of the red pills themselves. This was contradictory, as I am living proof that there was a survivor. Not that they could ever find out, since they never kept a strong paper trail. I was in shock. Everything I had based my life around was, in a way, a lie. They weren't a help group. They were a bunch of mugs lusting for murder, a murder cult which took advantage of people in a dark point of their lives, a concept that helped push me to where I am today. I had to take a break from my computer, so I went to my room to sit on my bed and look at the red pill. My prized possession, now a symbol of death. But that's when I had my epiphany. The red pill had always represented the easy way out, an option that was always there, yet one that never truly fixed any problems. It was, as it always represented, suicide. A message which they believed was the perfect solution. However, to me, it's a misguided message. Suicide is always an option. However, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. The blue pill represented nothing. The choice to have no magic fix intervene in your problems, but the choice to take them on yourself. A message which was not lost on me. In the end, I made the decision to stop thinking about whether they really were some sick, twisted help group with a good message or a bunch of savages. Because to me, in a way, it didn't matter. What they did for me was the best thing that ever happened, and the message, though now more morbid, had never really changed. To make sure it couldn't hurt anyone, I took the red pill out of its easily opened box and put it in a sealed, clear frame and hung it on the wall. I still tell the story of what it means. However, I always leave out the last part of its true origin.